Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Front Door. I'm Scott Benedict. For those of us that grew up in retail merchandising, the term inventory management systems, or IMS, refers to a series of software solutions that manage inventory visibility, forecasting, replenishment, and the optimization of inventory across business channels. Now, these systems are wonderful in that they improve a lot of processes, improve efficiency, and they enhance the overall merchandise management process by centralizing inventory data, supporting planning and forecasting decisions, and automate a number of critical tasks for both a retailer and a consumer brand. Now, as many retailers started and then grew their e-commerce businesses, separate and disjointed systems managed inventory for online sales and fulfillment of those orders from those systems which managed a retailer's brick and mortar store fleet. And like so many aspects of omnichannel retail, separate inventory management systems proved to be a real roadblock for retailers to truly achieve omnichannel integration, and it hindered both internal teams as well as consumers have good visibility to placement of inventory, the availability of products across the business. Now, one of the terms, or one of the firms that's at the forefront of innovation in helping retailers and consumer brands of all sizes mitigate and truly migrate to an integrative way of working and managing their inventory and their order systems is Nextuple, an Andover, Massachusetts-based software and services firm that helps retailers and consumer brands create and transform omnichannel order management systems in a number of exciting ways. Nextuple has in turn created a subsidiary firm called OnePint.ai, and that they help retailers leverage AI-powered demand forecasting, planning, and inventory optimization capabilities. OnePint focuses specifically on innovating inventory management systems, a critical component and underappreciated piece of a broader retail technology stack. And their Chief Business Officer, Anshuman, Jaiswal, and their CEO, Pattathil, joining us today in our studio here in Northwest Arkansas. And gentlemen, welcome. We're so happy to have you both with us today. Welcome to Northwest Arkansas.
Thank you, Scott.
So, Das, let me start with you, and maybe can you share with us a little background about the company, both Nextuple broadly and OnePint specifically, and what led the team to form these companies, and then the decision to add OnePint as a subsidiary of Nextuple. Could you give some background on that?
Absolutely. But first off, thank you, Scott, for having us here. It was a pleasure to meet you in person after such a long time working together at Walmart.
Indeed.
After my days at Walmart, I co-founded the Nextuple business in 2018. And we were focused really on microservice-based solutions for retailers and B2B businesses. What we've realized over the years is that, while it was very rewarding to, create these solutions for the large retailers, the repeatability of the product business was not so much applicable in that space that we were operating in,
right.
Which is why we decided that, we want to, take a product-based approach to serving mid-sized retailers and brands at the lower end of the spectrum.
Yes.
And which is why we launched OnePint.ai as a subsidiary of Nextuple. So I decided to take on the role of the CEO. Anshuman, took on the role of the Chief Business Officer.
Yeah.
And we got started about, 4 months ago.
Awesome. So Anshuman, as you work with some of your existing clients to upgrade their inventory management systems and their planning capabilities, I suspect there's probably some recurring themes or some recurring challenges that some of these firms have when trying to migrate into more modern ways of managing forecasting, planning, and inventory. What are some of those recurring things that you see clients that are encountering, or some of the challenges they encounter?
Yeah.
Scott, I think working with number of D2C brands and mid-sized retailers, what I realized was they face same set of challenges as big retailers. They have same aspirations as big retailers.
Yes.
In terms of how do we manage inventory forecasting, how do we have right in-stock ratios, and so on and so forth. But what they really struggle with is they don't have sufficient capital, or they have underinvested in their inventory systems. Many of the companies grow very quickly, and they have simply Excels or some homegrown systems. So they struggle with not having sufficient attention and investments in inventory systems. Additionally, now with the advent of AI is the future, they don't have modern tech as well. Right. So some of those are, basic challenges that many of our clients face. And we are here to, solve some of those challenges as we provide modern tech stack.
Makes sense. So, Jaiswal, when faced with the challenge of enhancing their inventory systems, especially in ways that align with omnichannel order fulfillment, could be orders going to a store or to an end consumer, what do you recommend retailers or brands consider in terms of evaluating their current IMS systems versus where they need to go to be relevant and really on top of their game going forward?
I think this is a great question. When we look at our potential client base or ideal customer profile, what we notice quite often is that folks are very focused on top line growth, which I think is a great objective to have. You need to be able to spend, acquire more customers, grow your top line. And what happens in the process as you scale is that the complexities increase in your operations.
Right.
And if you have not invested in systems and processes and automation in that back end, you run into challenges, sooner or later.
Right.
So I what we advise our potential clients or clients to do is to think about your metrics. What are you seeing in terms of your cost of fulfillment, right? Are you keeping your inventory close to your customer? What's your speed at which you can actually get to your customer, right? What's your forecasting accuracy? Are you able to meet in-stock rate that you aspire to have?
Right.
Do you have stockouts? Are you leaving money on the table because you're not able to serve customers? So look at all these metrics, and then that will give you the right sort of impetus to invest in solutions like an inventory management system, and also invest in real-time visibility as much as possible as you start selling on marketplaces, as you start selling into retailers, wholesale business and D2C.
Yeah.
You want to see what your supply is, what your demand is, what your availability for the different channels are in real time. So that's really what we ask our customers to do.
As you're talking, an additional question occurred to me. In many cases, retailers and brands, for that matter, are having to make decisions about in what order to invest in technology.
Yep.
And it feels like what you're describing is foundational. In other words, it's a basic capability that then sets up your future investments of technology. But if you don't have this aspect of your business solved, other investments down the road won't really be fully optimized. Is that the right way to think about that?
Absolutely. So, set up, if you don't have good demand forecasting base, how are you going to do, promotion analysis?
Right.
How are you going to do placement, inventory placement, logic? Some of these things are foundational that you need to invest in, sooner than later.
That makes sense. So, Anshuman, when looking at upgrades to their existing back office systems, how do you and the team advise retailers or brands to assess the ROI when they're making the decision to invest in this? Because I assume CFOs and other financial leaders are a party to some of these conversations, not just the supply chain or inventory management leaders. So there has to be an ROI conversation. How do you advise companies to kind of think that through?
Yeah. So, Scott, I think it is always cross-functional decisioning between CFOs and supply chain heads and technology leads in terms of evaluating what is a business case associated with investing in inventory management systems.
Right.
And the way we look at it is you should look at on three planks. The first one is top line benefits. What is in the new inventory management system if you don't have AI-enabled systems such as OnePint.ai?
Yeah.
What would it do to your sales or top line? Would you be able to sell more?
Yeah.
Second thing would be around looking at all the aspects of cost, whether it is fulfillment cost, your cost of disappoints or order cancellations. And lastly, you would look at cash flow, because inventory is cash flow.
Right.
So how much inventory buildup do you have? How much can you shave off from the inventory buildup and release the cash? You have soft benefits as well, which sometimes not get measured sufficiently in the business, as you know,
Right.
which is around productivity.
Yes.
A lot of people in supply chain and technology are just inundated with Excels and a lot of manual work.
Yes.
So we also look at productivity, unleash opportunity. Can you free up people's time for them to do more creative, more complex work and let an inventory management system do the grunt work, so to say?
Right. No, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And you touched a little bit about the role of AI. And that's what I was going to ask you. We hear an awful lot of conversations about the role of artificial intelligence or AI in modern retail across a number of aspects of business. What capabilities, maybe what benefits can a retailer or a consumer brand expect for AI or from AI when it relates to some of the back office systems like an inventory management system?
That's a great question, Scott. So if you look at application of AI in retail, there's been a lot over the past decade or so. And in my experience, a lot of the emphasis on AI applications were put into the shopping experience optimization, personalization, things which, got more stickiness for the customers to come in.
Right.
Not so much was done on the back end. Not so much was done on the supply chain. Yes, there was, last mile optimization, route optimization, things like that, which were, prevalent, but not so much into the rest of the supply chain. But I think we are at a point where this is a great time where I believe there is a revolution of supply chain systems using AI and the power of AI.
Yes.
Where we see opportunities are, if you are a mid-sized retailer or a brand looking to get an accurate picture of your demand and forecast your demand, there are a series of applications from time series forecasting to neural networks that can help you with that forecasting. Now, AI can even intelligently figure out, for certain categories of items, what algorithm applies.
Yes.
And, for certain other categories, something else applies. So we know, CPG is different from fashion, is different from, jewelry and all that. So no longer you need to kind of fit your, business into a single model.
Yeah.
The system is able to figure out, tune, tweak, and actually give you the right forecasting algorithm. So that's only one part of it. Once you have the forecast, you need to figure out, how do I buy? What's my supplier lead time? What sort of confidence do I have in that? When do I, bring it in? How much do I keep? Where do I keep it? So that I, when I have the demand, I'm able to fulfill it with, least amount of, fulfillment cost. That's another aspect of it. Now, we only talked about AI ML, but there is Gen AI, which is, the next frontier where we look at things like explainability. Because one of the big things that, in my experience and, many of our experience, there's a lack of trust in AI applications because it was a black box and it did not explain things well.
Yes.
But I think that paradigm is changing quite a bit, where now you can actually ask questions, get reasoning, and be able to actually get in-depth analysis of why certain decisions were made.
Right.
That's something that we are starting to use and see a lot of applications of. Other things, agentic AI, which is, now automating some of the actions where a human being had to previously weigh multiple options, consider something else, and then figure out what is the right decision to make. Now you can have agents making those decisions. Now, this space is just evolving at this point of time. And now you can probably see forecasting agents talking to inventory placement agents, talking to maybe pricing agents, and collaborating to make optimal decisions for clients. So I think it's a very exciting space, and I am, super excited to be, operating in this, this time.
Yes.
With AI.
Well, and I have to tell you both that my perspective as a former buyer is that buyers in many cases work collaboratively with their inventory management team and their planners and forecasting teams, and more retailers have those separate roles within their merchandising team. But it felt like in so many cases there was this tendency to the point that you made earlier, Das, to keep using legacy systems that weren't broken and were good enough.
Yep.
And now it feels as though table stakes require both retailers and brands to make these investments if they're going to keep up. And that probably the pandemic showed some holes in their way of operating that require more sophisticated solutions. Is that the right way to think about that?
Absolutely. I think the pandemic and the supply chain disruption that happened afterwards,
yes,
kind of opened many people's eyes in terms of how do you be more agile, in planning your supply chain, planning for your inventory. How do you react to exceptions and some of those things? We see that, day in and day out.
Okay. So in terms of some of the customer-facing aspects of inventory and inventory management, what are some of the common challenges? And I think this is retailer-specific, although brands certainly play a role in that. And how can in the investment in a more advanced, more sophisticated IMS really make the customer's experience better, in addition to obviously optimizing the business benefit for the retailer? What does the customer see when you do a better job of leveraging this technology?
I think, Scott, that's a good question, because everything starts and should start with customer in mind.
Yeah.
So customers' expectations are continuously evolving, as we all know. I think the number one need from customer standpoint is, do I get reliable experience across the channel that I'm shopping? I'm shopping at Walmart Marketplace, Amazon Marketplace, my retailer's website, RSS stores. So sort of providing that reliable experience really depends on whether you have unified source of truth for inventory, so that you can serve all of your inventory channels.
Right.
So that's number one. The other aspect is, can you help me deliver accurate promise?
Yes.
Because when I do shop, I expect my package to arrive at a certain time. Do I get accurate promise from you?
Yes.
So that's the second need. And the third need would be, I want personalization of experiences. You should have data, and you should know me better than anybody else, and so that you can serve personalized experiences to me. So those are the three ways customers experience how good or bad of an inventory management system you have.
Yeah.
And it is continuously shaping and evolving. So you have to be at the, as brands and retailers, you have to be really at the cutting edge of the frontier.
Yeah.
To serve your customers as best as you can.
As you were talking about that, one of the things that occurred to me is that it's not just important to have the right overall inventory, but for that inventory to be placed in the right location. And the signals that a retailer or a brand get aren't just, this is what overall demand is, excuse me, but it's also this location, this store, this fulfillment center, this delivery center. That's almost as important to the customer experience that you're just talking about as tracking and planning the overall demand. Is that the right way to think about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because which customer does not want convenience and speed?
Yes.
Right. So
I haven't met one yet.
Yes. that's part of the value delivery. So what inventory you have? How much do you have? Do you have any stock outs? All of those have to be managed. At the same time, where do you place, so that you could you could optimize on speed and cost equation as well. Absolutely.
So one of the things that I have seen both while I was still working in retail and now my role as a consultant is that introducing any new system or new technology or new tool requires the company that has that technology to train their associates to use it and to be effective, to get the full value out of that. In terms of training either new employees as they come in or existing employees as they implement a new system, what have you and the team learned about maybe some of the best practices for training either the retailer or the brand's team to implement a new system? And is that kind of a one-time issue, or is that training and optimization of your personnel something that happens over time?
Yeah. So Scott, I think, we at OnePint.ai don't treat technology implementation as technology implementation. We treat it as business outcome delivery mission.
Right.
So that's foundational.
Yeah.
And the way we think about is training should not be an afterthought.
Bless you, because that hasn't always been my experience. And that's part of why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Is that in many cases it's the technology. Here's the keys. Have a good time with it.
Right.
And if you don't teach the team how to use it, you don't unlock the full value, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So what we essentially do is to embed training from get-go, the user training, the decision makers who needs to be trained as well, because now you are getting Gen AI as well. So some of the things that really has worked well at OnePint.ai is thinking about training as part of the change management, because people are either moving off Excel or some homegrown system or some legacy systems, so they require that change and support. Embedding train the trainer mindset as well, and then now leveraging Gen AI, wherein providing capabilities so that folks can self-learn,
Yes.
get self-trained,
Yes.
based on their device of choice, in very human, natural language ways. So there are tools and techniques that we are constantly evolving and updating to make sure that training is as seamless. But first of all, it starts with mindset. You got to embed training from get-go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it feels like when you're considering making these investments, not only do you have to have an ROI mentality, but you have to think about what are all of the decisions that come with that investment and the benefit that ultimately you see in the business. Yeah, please.
If I can add to that, I think, given that we are targeting a lot of brands and, smaller companies,
Yes.
it's very obvious that they don't have too much time, to support an implementation and dedicate people to, onboard a new tool, etc. So, so we have consciously invested in quite a bit of self-onboarding capabilities, meaning you can walk, you can, very easily set your catalog up, set your, network up into the system through conversational AI. So that's been a real focus of OnePint.ai, is that we want to be as low touch as possible in terms of, getting the software set up and configured to a point where you can actually do it on your own. Right. So, yeah.
And however big you think that is, I think from having been the business person who had to use some of those systems throughout my career, I can't emphasize how big that is, because so many systems have failed because either the ultimate user didn't embrace it, didn't support it, or didn't know how to gain the full value from it.
Yeah.
This piece, kind of to the point both of you were making, is so critical, because you can't unlock the value if the team isn't using it to its full potential, and the team has to really be brought along
Absolutely
through that process, and they have to feel like this actually makes their lives easier, and they get the pride of doing a better job because they've used a more sophisticated and but easier to use system. Is that the right way to think about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's how we're thinking about it.
So one of the last things I wanted to kind of ask you is that, in my work as a consultant, one of the conversations we have with a lot of clients is the cost of doing nothing. In other words, there's investment decisions you have to make to be a part of modern retail, whether you're a retailer or a brand. And there's always the conversation about, well, what if we do nothing and we don't spend any money? And so as some of the clients you've encountered, either those that you successfully landed or maybe those who are still a little bit on the sidelines, when they make hard choices about investing in omnichannel capabilities, what are some of the examples you have seen of the impact of not making that investment, of doing that, the do nothing, or let's not invest now, or let's wait kind of decisions? What are some of the impacts that you've seen clients or potential clients face because they chose to do nothing?
And, I have to say that most of the prospects or clients that we come across are in that sort of situation, Scott. What happens, is that you prioritize top line growth, like I was saying earlier, and some of the investments in operational optimization and back-end systems is usually an afterthought. And what the risk that clients run into, I'll take an example of a brand that we're working with, quite a large a brand with fairly large customer base, still using spreadsheets to manage inventory that is being sold on different channels. And OnePint is helping them create a single source of truth for inventory and create that sort of available to promise picture for different channels. Similarly, a food brand who's got a manufacturing center, multiple distribution facilities, and a growing customer base, selling on wholesale into some retailers. Again, using Google Sheets to manage entire planning process. So I think it is understandable that some of these things will work in the initial stages. But what our recommendation, or what our perspective is, that sooner or later you need to start thinking about automating some of these things, investing in the right tools. Like you said earlier, the foundation, right? You got to set those foundations, because the complexity is only going to increase. You're going to start selling on more channels, and it makes your life a lot easier if you have the foundation right, and then you can actually add on fairly easily on top of that.
And if I may add, yes, Scott, I think from investment perspective, one of the things that early on, Das and I decided that we should really focus on frugal architectural principles, so that the systems that we build are affordable to mid-market retailers, to brands, because that's superbly important. The other element is around ROI as well, because if you are operating in Google Sheets and our homegrown systems, you have a friction to adopt newer systems. So how do we make it easier and faster? So one of the things that we really promote is time to market.
Right.
How can we quickly implement the systems? And and that is part of the investment equation as well. So we really focus on those two elements, so that you can get brands and retailers off the Excel sheets or homegrown systems, etc., adopt modern technology, and still deliver the ROI that CFOs and business are looking for.
I think that's a great point, and a great way to kind of tie up the conversation today is the fact that, one, foundational elements of your business are so critical to have a strong underpinning, whether you're a retailer or brand, to set yourself up for future success. And this time to market thing, I think, is critical, because so many of us in our past lives, particularly the e-commerce part of my career, I saw that convincing senior leaders to invest not only significant sums of money, but development hours and time to where the benefit isn't seen for years instead of months or weeks, is part of how you get no's or maybe later's. In that really should be yeses. Let's get going now, and let's get that whole ROI benefit as quickly as we can. So fascinating stuff gentlemen, thank you both for joining me today. At a time when omnichannel retailers continue to explore ways to best position their companies for success with some core operational capabilities, it's clear that inventory management systems are that foundational element of a broader transformation of a retailer or a consumer brand's back office infrastructure. From forecasting to stock replenishment, from distribution center flow to real-time store inventory accuracy, a high-performing inventory management system can really dramatically influence retail outcomes, both for the brand, the retailer, and ultimately for the consumer. As retailers navigate which technology bets to make, it feels like IMS is really a key cornerstone capability, a foundational capability to build a smarter, faster, and more resilient omnichannel business. And so feels like this is an important topic. And gentlemen, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
For the Digital Front Door, I'm Scott Benedict. Thanks for joining us.